All right, this week we're going to talk about real estate taxes. And a lot of you are freaking out because your property taxes went way up. I mean, way up. And I know you're freaking out because you guys are calling me saying, hey, what do we do? How do we get these property taxes down? We had one heck of a jump. So stick with me all the way to the end of this video. It is not going to be 2 minutes. We're probably going to be 6 to 10 minutes. But you're going to want to watch this, especially if you own property in Knox County, Ohio. So first off, my property taxes went up just like you guys, so I'm with you. It is a little frustrating. First thing, I guess I want to tell you, I called the Knox County Auditor's Office. I called the Knox County Treasurer's Office today. Before I made this video, I wanted to be certain that what I was going to tell you was dead on, and that my belief of why the taxes went up as much as they did was accurate. I was able to confirm that what I believed is true. And the number one reason your property taxes went up is because they did a new appraisal on all properties in Knox County, and they hadn't done one in 3 years. Well, the real estate market 3 years ago and the values of these properties 3 years ago was different than it is today. If you've been following 2 Minutes on Tuesday, for the last 2 years, you've been hearing me cry the blues because we don't have enough houses to sell. They're selling super, super fast, and the price is going up. That's why I've been telling everybody, if you want to max out and sell and make money, now's the time to do it because there's not many homes for sale. Well, it's true. And so the Knox County auditor, the tax appraiser who appraises these properties, and I think it's a firm more than a person, when they did that, they took that into consideration. They can clearly see what properties are selling for, so they take that into consideration. So the number one reason your taxes went up is they updated the values based on the most current market information. Now, the good news for you guys, most of your properties are still not at full market value. We had a house that we sold just 3 weeks ago. I know what it sold for, and then I saw what it was appraised at for tax purposes, and it was still $40,000 under what we sold it for. So they still haven't caught up in a lot of cases, partially because the housing is just ramping up. I mean, the activity and the values are so strong. So that's number one. Number two, I've seen a lot of houses where the value has increased for taxes 20, 30, 40%. And in some cases, if it was way undervalued, I've seen some of them almost double. Some of you may have experienced almost a double, where it's the price, you valued at $100,000 and it jumped to $200,000. And depending on where you live, what improvements you made, or what's going on in your neighborhood, could have happened. So that's one thing. Second thing that really drives these values is additions. Like if you build a room addition that got picked up on this most recent appraisal, if you added a garage, if you added a barn, let's say you build a deck, added a patio, if you added a storage shed, some people call them yard barns, that's at least 200 square feet, that bumped your property taxes because they'll count that. So there's all these little things. If you did extensive remodeling and updating, you could end up with a bump up in value. So that's something worth knowing. Another thing that can cause your property taxes to go up is if a tax levy passed where you live. So I'm not aware of any school levies that passed recently, but I believe College Township passed a levy, and I also believe Fredericktown had a levy that passed. So folks in College Township and in Fredericktown, there's a good chance that not only did your taxes go up because of the 3-year appraisal where they updated the value, but also you got hit with an increase because that levy passed, and so that bumps up your taxes again. A lot of people don't know when they vote for a levy, they're basically voting for a tax increase where that money for that tax increase is allocated to go towards whatever that levy was for. It helps for their funding. And believe me, I'm not against levies because we got to have schools. I mean, there's no way around it. You've got to have police, fire. I mean, you got to have all those services. And sometimes it takes an increase in order to do that. Something else, new construction. If you built a brand new home, you were probably taxed at land value before you build it. And so you may have just paid land value only, and then all of a sudden magically your new house gets picked up for the appraisal, and now you're like, oh my gosh, I went from $400 on vacant lot tax to $5,000 on new construction, and you're shaking your head going, I never dreamed it would be that much. And that does happen. Also, give you another one, and this is a freebie. This is one that if you built a new house, no matter how long ago, I want you to check on the auditor's website and see if you are receiving the owner-occupied primary residence 2.5% rate reduction. So many people, when they build a brand new home, do not register with the Knox County Auditor and let them know that that new house you just built is going to be your primary residence. And there's no charge for the application, and they will help you do it. If you contact them, blame me, say, hey, I saw it on Sam Miller's 2 Minutes on Tuesday, and they will help you sign up to get that 2.5% reduction. Now, the negative is, if you've been living in this new house 8 years and you didn't sign up, it's not retroactive. They're not going to cut you a check back for the 8 years that you didn't register, but they'll set you up for the upcoming years. You'll get that reduction. So I think that's pretty cool. A couple other things. Go to knoxcountyauditor.org, knoxcountyauditor.org, and I want you to pull up, if you think your property taxes are way too high, I want you to pull up your tax auditor's card, and I want you to print it out, and I want you to critique it. I want you to really look it over and look for mistakes. And I don't mean like a typographical error, because that's not going to save you a nickel. But if you find mistakes on it, you have the ability to let them know there are clerical errors, and they have the ability to correct that without a lot of difficulty if there's a legit error. I'll give you a great example, and I've seen this a few times. Tax appraiser marks the house as a 1.5-story home, but it's not a 1.5-story home. It's a single-story home with an attic, and maybe it's a walk-up attic, and the entire upstairs is unfinished, and there's bare rafters, no walls. It may have a floor in it where there's insulation, but not finished. That's an issue where the tax appraiser is incorrect. They made an error, and it's not really their fault. They don't get a chance to get inside of these houses to see what's inside. And I'll give you another example. Sometimes they'll have a house that's way overvalued for tax purposes because the outside is pristine as can be, but the inside is a demolition project where they're in the process of remodeling, and the tax appraiser looking at the outside of the house assumes the inside is as nice as the outside. And that's a situation where you can petition and say, hey, this isn't right. I'll show you photos, whatever you need. And you have the ability to argue your case, and you probably high probability to get your taxes dropped down. So that's one example. Also, if your property if you think it's way overvalued for tax purposes, I'm not talking $5,000 or $10,000. If you think the difference is way overvalued and they just blew it, which happens every now and then, not as much as you would think, but every now and then it does. That's the time that you want to petition and you want to fill out the form and basically and I'll tell you what that form is. The form is called DTE1. When you go to knoxcountyauditor.org, on the very top bar across the screen, there's a button called Forms. And if you look down, I think it's the fourth line down, you'll see a button that says Tax. It's the first line under Tax. You want to click that and print that form out. This is what the form looks like. It's super, super simple. It's a 2-page form. And if you think they've got you way over and you want to argue your case, fill that form out, get them the information, and the dates you have to do this. It's between January 1st, 2021 through March 31st. That application has to be turned in, or that complaint has to be turned in to the auditor's office for them to be able to review that. And there's a process that it goes through. And I actually did this once on a house that I've owned for 25 years. They had me listed, my sunroom was my office, but it was a 3-season room and had no heat in it. And they claimed it was my full living space, and it wasn't. And there's no way they would have known that by even looking in the windows. And so I argued that it isn't. And quickly they made the adjustment, and there was no problem. So anyway, that's important. And there's a process, and the Board of Revisions review it. And it's an outside valuation. They don't come in your home. I don't know of ever a case they've actually went inside of somebody's home. I want to emphasize this, and this is really important. If you're really upset about your property taxes, understand the people that work in the auditor's office and the treasurer's office, they're not the one that caused this. There was an appraisal company that did the value, and maybe that value isn't where it should be. So whatever you do, don't get upset with the people in these offices. And actually, these folks in these offices are there to help you. So if you're super nice to them, they will be super nice to you. And you can call. You don't even have to go in. You can call and ask some of the questions that I'm sharing with you, and they'll be happy to help. If you're not really good with the internet, they can even pull up your auditor's card over the telephone. But you can even go in and get a copy of your card if you want to visit them at their East High Street office. So I hope this is helpful. And if you got questions, feel free to give us a call, 740-397-7800. And I hate to say this, but if the taxes of your property have gone up so much that you no longer can afford it, definitely give us a call. We may have some advice for you that can be helpful. Thanks for watching 2 Minutes on Tuesday. Appreciate it. Have a good one. Bye.